Film is a medium that transports. All I have to do is pop myself in front of the TV to watch a movie, and I can just enjoy it, whatever place the film takes me to.
Movies have always been an escape. It gives you a whole new world to be in.
I have a rekindled love affair with movies.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Real to Real Talk. I am Sergio Barrera, and it's time once again to talk all things movies. Joining me, as always, are the other Real to Real talkers, Paul Britton and Susan Chisholm. Welcome, guys.
Yeah,
Hi.
welcome. So happy to be here.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yeah, and you say we're going to be talking all things movies. We are hyper focusing today.
Yes, that's true.
On
It's
some
just-
things movies.
It's just a phrase.
Yeah,
Yes, we are gonna talk some things movies, that's for sure. As we will be taking a look this week at two films, we are going to be talking about the recent release from this past week, Dune, and we'll also be reviewing the movie The Last Duel. So, guys, let me tell you something. As a fan of the books, I was very excited about going to see Dune. What were your thoughts as we, as you approached this epic film?
So I had read a part of the book, of the 1st book. So I
This
was
was only
vague.
15.
Yeah, I know, only. I was kind of like clueless. We watched it at home on HBO Max with all the kids, and we started it at like 9 o'clock because that's how we roll as parents.
Right.
However, Cullen was like,
Oh, okay. Is he a fan of the
he
book?
was so, he's
Yeah.
a huge fan. He was like the whole time. So, yeah, I mean, I felt his excitement and it got me hyped up for it too. So that's where I'm at.
So I'm familiar with the Lynch atrocity that is the the original film back in '84 or whenever it was, and I saw it once all the way through, and then it was not good, and then they said, oh, there's a director's cut that's 3.5 hours long, it's much better, and it wasn't better. But from that experience, you find out that like this is a book that like it just has a huge following. There's the people love this book. So for those people, I was super excited that the movie was coming out, and for me, that Villeneuve is getting a chance to get his vision out, because his movies are just so freaking good. Arrival is definitely one of my favorite movies of the past 10, 15, 20 ever years. And just his stuff is so good. So like this sort of like, crazy out there book seemed to lend itself to his, his flavor of storytelling. So I was excited for Villeneuve that more so than, Dune.
Yeah. For myself, having read the books, a few of the books, I have not read all 15, but definitely the first one. But this was years ago. It was always a story that captured my attention, and I remember reading them as a kid, and the images that come into your head as you read, because that's one of the to this day I love reading because I love creating my own film, so to speak, as I read. When the first Dune came out, the Lynch atrocity, I remember thinking, okay, it's not, I had the presence of mind back then to even think we just don't have what's necessary. I didn't know what was necessary. I just knew that we didn't have it. And that movie just proved it. A few years later, the Sci-Fi Network does a 6-part series, I believe it was, of the story for TV. And it was better. For myself, I enjoyed it because I think it was, it stayed close to the material, and it was good for what it was. But then when it was done, it was like, okay. I mean, okay. When I saw the trailer the very first time for the new release, this version, I remember my head exploding because I literally took me back to my childhood, and I thought to myself, oh yeah, it's time. We have the technology, for what this, because this film has to be big in scope.
Mhm.
The size of the ships as they're described in the books, they're, when some of the first images rolled out on this to the screen, I mean, I was 12, 15 again. Like it was in my head, and I was like, okay, it's time for this film. And then, and the only moment right before that was it's at part 1, and I'm like, damn it. What do you mean part 1?
I
Gotta
saw that
eat
too,
more
and I was like,
salads. So but I was, so I was excited from the moment the trailers came out, and as the movie began, it just, for me, it swept me away. Today, earlier this afternoon, it was announced that part 2 has been greenlit. It will be released in October of 2023. More
wow.
salads in my future.
Yes.
And I'm excited because it has not done well at the box office. It has not done well. So
but then everybody's like,
has.
it's crushing its expectations.
Yeah.
For whatever current expectations are. It's funny because on one of my geek website, geek Facebook pages that I'm on, Geek Film Geek Facebook, like somebody posted, oh, why don't they just announce that the sequel's coming? I was like, because it right now it's on track to make about $400 million, and they're like, but that's great in the pandemic. And I was like, do you really think executives give a crap whether it's the pandemic or not? Like, the Golden Compass made $400 million, and they dropped that like third period French, so yeah. But thankfully the powers that be were very much surprisingly attuned to the demand for a sequel, and they're following through.
The pitfalls of this book to film is its pace. And this movie, for me, doesn't rush things, which I like. And again, the scope. And so one of the first things I'd like us to talk about as we discuss our thoughts on this film is just the imagery, the cinematography, but of course, so many pieces of this film are CGI. For myself, I was transported to this place in my mind that was just so much fun because of the scope of the images on the screen. I think this movie was beautifully shot, beautifully put together. And I said the night I watched it, they've pretty much sewn up, as far as I'm concerned, the Oscar for costume design.
That's a pun. Did you get the pun? He's sewn it up.
Absolutely.
But
a winner is you.
Yes. To
film.
answer your question, to answer your statement with nothing at all, yes, it will definitely get a lot of nominations and quite a few wins for the technical and visual categories, and deservedly so. Should also get some sound design love too, because damn, I saw it in IMAX. Holy, my teeth were rattling. It was just like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel bad because you guys each saw it in the theater and you saw it in IMAX, and I was like, I saw it on my couch.
Well, it's funny because I saw it. I didn't see it in IMAX, saw it in a regular theater. But I in this same office that I work from, I have a TV it's the largest TV I've ever owned. Totally on purpose. And I started it again, and I had to play with my volume like through the first hour or so. Like, too loud. Oh, bring it down. Jen's napping. Like, so because the sound levels are so so creatively done, and they don't mind getting loud when they have to. They get very quiet. But yeah, so very, very beautifully shot film. Let's talk cast, because wow.
Mm-hmm.
What a cast.
Yeah, that was incredible.
Paul, we'll start with you. Talk a little bit about the cast and your thoughts, and then Susan, we'll hear from you as well.
When the two people that appear the least in the movie are Javier Bardem and Zendaya. Like, what else you got going on for me? Because this cast was absolutely stacked, and just everybody just absolutely brought a game. Becca Ferguson is just so good as Lady Jessica, and and Timothy Chalamet does a great job too. Oscar Isaac, I always love.
Oh, man.
I think Brolin is great in almost like a throwaway role. Jason Momoa, I mean, holy, just absolute charisma oozing off the screen. Just so good.
Yeah. They were really well directed. Jason Momoa, before I hear your thoughts, Susan, I just want to cut in and say, I want to know how much they paid him to shave his facial hair. So, dang.
Oh, that's a lot of money.
I was like, I bet he got paid a lot. So,
yeah.
They might have CGI'd. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
They might have CGI'd his beard onto Oscar Isaac. Like, that's what, so he didn't have to shave it off.
No, he definitely shaved it. He looked like Chunky Baby. It was I loved the cast. I thought it was fantastic. We were commenting on it, and I don't know if this is going to be counted as a spoiler because the book's been around forever. The poster shows
1965.
the poster shows 8 people.
Yeah.
And in this part 1, at the end of them, there's only 4 of them left. But in terms of the cast, I remember like seeing everybody and like the different faces as they popped up, because I had done a little bit of research and knew who was in it. But as the faces were popping up and I was recognizing them, I was like, oh, it's that guy, like Dave Bautista. I was like, hey, it's that guy. And all the kids were like, it's Drax. And I'm like, shh, you're too loud. And we had the volume turned all the way up, and I believe our neighbors heard the movie. But I think just how many people they had, kind of familiar faces cycling through it, was just like, this is gonna be great. And then I remember the excitement of again Cullen he was so excited. He's like, that's Duncan? Oh, this is gonna be great. And I was like, yeah. That was me. I was like, totally.
Yeah. It's just such a great use of so many people. And I don't know, there was a certain level, I don't know, this is gonna sound so corny, but there was sort of a comfort level that I was in a complicated story, but with so many familiar faces. It, for me, made it easy to follow. So, So overall, then, let's talk. We've talked sort of production quality. We've talked cast. What would you say, Susan? We'll start with you, and then Paul, and then I'll chime in as well. What are the strengths of this film, and what are some of the things that would be considered opportunities?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think the cast is a strength for sure. Like, I think that each person is perfect in their character, as told by Cullen. So, I mean, I think everybody did a great job. Very convincing. I think, I think for me, it was a little bit slower and a little bit talkier than I was expecting. I think, but I don't really know what I was expecting.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, to be fair, that was probably just me. But I mean, it was an amazing movie. I loved just about every minute of it. There were times when I was like hollering at the screen, but I think that that's a good thing when you have this emotional, visceral response to a movie and you're like yelling out at the screen, even though they can't hear you.
That's true.
Yeah, so that's me.
All right, Paul, what about you?
So, look, for me, the visuals is the biggest plus. I think Villeneuve brings the right tone to this movie. this isn't a Star Wars movie. The story isn't Star Wars. It's a more somber, sort of serious tone than what Star Wars presents, and so it's different, and it really works. It really comes across very well. I would say my only problem is it's not the pacing as much as there were some moments where it was just kind of like, we don't have to quite go this speed. Like, we can, move on a little bit maybe. But, and also I hated the final line of the movie until today. So.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. For myself, again, everything you guys have talked about, the visuals, the scope of the film itself, the cast was fantastic. Stellan Skarsgård, come on, as Baron Harkonnen. They did take some liberties with story. There was a lot of the politics, but they did for me, one of my favorite parts of the book was how Atreides, the Oscar Isaac character, I can't think of his first name, how in the book he talks to the Fremen, and there's more negotiation between the two parties about how he's going to hopefully make their lives better and so forth. That was sort of glossed over within the context of the film, but I understand why. But there was in the same way, there were some things that were not used in previous renditions of the story and on film. The problem with the first Dune, amidst many, was they tried to do the whole book in one film, right? Which you're never going to be able to do. This, obviously, I believe it's 2 parts is what it's going to be, part 1 and part 2, allows you to dig deeper in, because the Dune isn't about being a science fiction film as much as it is about the politics of houses and the politics of, of conquest and rule. And so I like that they took their time telling the story and really, really weaving in the politics of the Bene Gesserit and, all the machinations that go behind the scenes and what is such a critical story. So that to me is a strength. If you're a fan of the books, in addition to just having some of the most visually compelling images that I think I've seen on film in recent times. And it was slow. The pacing at times was tough for me. But I just reminded myself that, in my lifetime, I finally got a decent rendition of the story on film. Yeah. And to me, that's worth it. And to me, it's worth eating well for the next 2 years. So,
yes.
So, yeah. So here on Reel to Reel Talk, that we have a 5 taco rating scale for movies. Movie can get as many as 5 tacos, but we also will add guac if we feel like it deserves a little bit of extra love. So, Paul, we'll start with you, then Susan, and myself. What are your ratings, your taco ratings for Dune?
Ever since I saw it on Saturday, I was ready to go 3 tacos plus guac, knocking it off 1 taco for only making half a movie and not really even knowing if a sequel is coming. Yeah. Now that the sequel is announced, I'm I'm putting that taco back on it. It's 4 tacos plus guac.
Gotcha. All right, 4 tacos plus guac for Paul, because we are going to get a second half. So, all right, Susan.
Honestly, I'm going to say 4 tacos plus guac also, because it was very talky. But again, I don't know what I was expecting. I really liked it, though. I think it was fantastic.
Excellent. All right. Well, you might as well bring that same image back up, because for me, it is 4 tacos plus guac. The only reason I didn't go a full 5 tacos was because I'm picky about the book. There are some pacing issues for me, right in the middle. But when the action gets going, and this is worth 4 tacos plus a really, really great guac on top for Dune. Again, you can watch Dune on HBO Max, but go to theaters, please, if you can.
Go to IMAX.
Go to IMAX.
I'm thinking if that's an option.
Yeah.
If that's an option for you, go to IMAX.
I feel like y'all are dunking on me, seriously.
No, not at all. Like Duncan, Idaho?
Ha ha ha.
No, not Duncan at all. Hey, listen, I like watching stuff at home as well, so don't worry.
Listen, you know what I didn't have to do is put pants on. I had shorts and I was totally fine in my jammy jams.
You win.
And my kids actually got to watch the movie with me, so it was fantastic, and I didn't have to pay $1,000 at the movie theater.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I will, however, consider seriously going to watch it on IMAX because, again, it's a beautiful film. Beautiful film. All right. Well, don't forget, you can follow us on social media here at Real to Real Talk. Check us out on Facebook. Look up the title of the show, Real to Real Talk, and go and check out all the stuff we have posted there, posters and past episodes, things of that nature. Also on Instagram, you can find us at Real to Real Talk. You can see all of our show posters from since the inception of the show. And we're looking forward to hearing from you on our social media. And we appreciate that you come and watch the show week to week with us. And we thank you so much for that. We come now to our review of The Last Duel. This movie came out 2 weeks ago, and Paul, you and I watched it initially. Susan, we waited so that you could watch because we really felt it was important to have equal representation on what is a very interesting film. This film was directed by Ridley Scott, written by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and starring Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, and Adam Driver. The topic of this movie, The Last Duel, is based on a historical event in which, during the time in which, if you know your history, the late 1300s, 100 Years' War, if you're looking for sort of a historical pinpoint time frame, these were the days of knights and jousting and duels to the death to let God decide the fates and truth of things. And so before we even get into the conversation, you guys, if you're watching, notice the screen, the slide we put up. And that's because this is a very sensitive topic for a lot of people, this film. The story involves the rape of a woman, one of the main characters, and the events in the film are told through the lens of each of the three main characters, both the husband of the woman, his rival, and then the woman herself. So guys, as we start this conversation, I know that we're all sensitive to the topic, and I want you guys to speak your heart. And we'll try to look at this from a film standpoint, but we can't not talk about everything that is involved with it. So, I found this film to be very interesting in its storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is one of the most compelling aspects of The Last Duel, in that it's that old traditional point of view where you're taken through the story, in this case 3 different times.
Right.
And I think that's the strength of this film. Many, and I hope I don't take any of your thoughts, but many have complained about the fact that we don't get a lot of the character that Jodie Comer plays until late in the film. I think that's one of its strengths. But let's talk about this movie from a film standpoint first, and then let's see where the subject matter takes us in terms of our thoughts on what it portrays, and was it successful in its attempt to try to portray this story. Guys, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, I expected far less from them in this role, and I was really impressed. Am I just crazy?
Matt Damon and Ben Affleck?
Yes.
How many
Again,
hair
share
jokes?
your thoughts.
What's the over/under for number of hair jokes I'm allowed to tell? Are we limited on the number of hair jokes we can tell?
That was so bad.
5?
There were some issues with that, but I'm talking about.
Right.
I've seen them try to do accents before.
Yeah.
Right. Their acting was
really good.
So strong.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But I think Matt Damon is a really solid actor. I mean, talented Mr. Ripley. He's done it before. He has had roles that, he is just really done a fantastic job of being just a character, like a not just being Matt Damon, but being the character, and this is a great example of that. And like the Ben Affleck character it kind of feels like Gone Girl, like in the 1300s, like that's kind of who he's playing a little bit to an extent, but really good. Like, because if you've seen Gone Girl, he's really good in that, and he's really good in this too. And yeah, I mean, and of course Adam Driver, we get Adam Driver, and he's always fantastic. So yeah, the acting is fantastic. And the thing that I appreciated the most about the acting was how everything was played subtly differently, depending on whose point of view we're going through too. So it wasn't, so you really, I mean, that's a very difficult thing to accomplish in my mind, playing the same scene, but just adding nuance, but not nuance to the character, but nuance to another character. Like, you're literally adding nuance to Matt Damon's character by playing his wife one way, and then adding nuance to Adam Driver's character playing her another way, and then adding it's fascinating. It really is.
Yeah. I think that there were some things that I typically don't like in movies, like a lot of the gory violence and stuff like that, but I was able to kind of get past it, and because I was really interested in the story. I think that breaking it down into the 3 different points of view was a good move, because I don't think that this could have fully been told effectively without having all 3 points of view. And I think that it was really good cast wise, that the way that they did, like you said, it wasn't something that I was expecting from Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. Like, I mean, we're going to talk about that hair problem. Needless to say, lay off the bleach, my friends. But yeah, I think that the movie was effective in its telling so far. I mean, what we've talked about so far.
Yeah. The use of the 3 point of views, really, for me, the reason it won me over was because you felt a certain way about each of the characters, and in the end, when we get her point of view and her telling of the events, you realize how, and I'm speaking as a male, you realize how your mind, I'll just speak for myself, how I allowed myself to be convinced who was the villain and who was the one who had been wronged. And when you get to that third portion of the story, you realize, man, I slipped into that too easily, given the subject matter and so forth.
I will say, during the second telling, like the first telling is very ambiguous, and I think that is actually, again, a strength. Because Matt Damon doesn't know exactly what happened, so there is amount of filtration of the information, but you get the first, and the most difficult thing about this movie is you have to relive this scene twice, and it's, I mean, the first time even, it's like, how can Adam Driver be sitting here like, oh yeah, no, it's like, it's literally like the no means no, and it's and he just plows right through it, and it's just like there's so many no's, and he doesn't deny that there are that these no's didn't happen, and
there was just a line in the film that I looked over at Cullen and I just raised my eyebrows, and he knew what that meant, and it was she of course she protested as a woman does.
Yeah, for her lady, as a lady
does. And I was like,
it's so bad. It's so bad. And like, you knew right then and there, oh shit, like this third, and you knew the third telling was coming, and you knew it was going to just be as brutal as it was. And it's so much worse because of when she admits what happened to Matt Damon. And it's, I hope people go see this movie. I don't want to kind of spoil things and give things away, but like everything that happened to her when it's made worse when she tells Matt Damon what happened, and it's just like she almost has to relive the whole thing over. It's just so
it's horrific.
Yeah.
It's horrific.
Yeah. Brutal.
Yeah. And realistic.
Yeah.
Right. Given the times that we live in, this movie, I think, resonates. And I think I can't read the mind of a Ridley Scott and those who wrote it. I think that that was the point, is to get us to, because you can look at this film and go, well, that's how things were back then, and it was horrific. But there are still the elements of truth, and whose truth is truth, and there's still the doubt that is sowed by people in scenarios of this type, that are reflected in this story, that unfortunately still resonate. And I think that's the difficulty of the film, is that it, and not the difficulty, but the difficulty it forces you to face, that we can no longer say, well, that was then, because stuff like that still happens now, and that makes it a very challenging film to face and go through, especially when, again, you realize how easily you can be swayed. This is, not to make light of anything, but it's the reason I couldn't be a debate judge in college debate, because whoever spoke last, I was like, oh yeah, well, that makes sense. And then the next person spoke, and I was like, well, that makes sense. And so this is not a subject that we should do that with,
right,
when it comes to truth.
And Ridley Scott, director, by the way, of Thelma and Louise. So it's not like, taking the trying to interpret the difficulties of getting people to listen to you as a woman. It's not like this is a foreign concept to him or something he hasn't explored before with great success.
Yeah.
So
do we? One of the things that I feel I want to comment on is that I believe, and I'd like to get your perspectives if you're comfortable sharing. I don't feel that any part of this film was treated gratuitously, and that was the fear I had going into it. Is that a fair statement when it comes to the portrayal of the events of this film?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair statement. Y'all gave me a warning, gave me a heads up, and it was kind of like I knew going into it, and I was worried going into it, and I was not 100% sure how I would feel during and after it. But it was done in such a fashion that it made it, there was it's hard to explain. Like, there was a degree of separation, I guess. So it was easy to not be pulled into it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the difficult thing is it's central to the story,
Right.
So, and it's difficult, but also the important thing, and why it needs to be there. Like, I would almost say that the gladiator segment of the movie is more gratuitous in what it shows than the actual, horrific rape scenes. It's, it gets really gnarly at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, just really gnarly.
And yet, the thing that for me was such a revelation, I guess, when the film was done, was how little that duel mattered by the time we got to that point of the story. And thank you guys for sharing your thoughts on the question. I posed the question because I know that there are many people out there, for very good reason, who will not see it because of what they've heard is portrayed in the film. But if you're someone who appreciates film, I want to encourage people to see this film, because the messaging of it, I think, is needed.
Yeah.
But layer in the successful nature of how the film was, how the movie was filmed, and all of the elements of its editing and storytelling and so forth. It's a strong movie, and Ridley Scott you know, I'm not a baseball a fanatic. I think it's the phrase is he hits for the fences every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, he's
Swings
out
for the
Swings for the
swings for the
fences.
fences.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff I love about his work is that he risks, and because there's a message that he wants to give and there's a story that he wants to tell, and I think he was successful in telling this story. So,
yeah, and it's a shame because not many people have seen it. Like it did not do well in the box office.
That's right,
So
no.
I hope if this convinces one person to go, that's great because it's really it's a spectacle. I mean that it's poor choice of words perhaps, but it's appropriate because of what the trial turns into and what the aftermath of the three the 3-act story from 3 perspectives is this grand the duel itself is a spectacle, and
Right.
and it really it just brings home the themes of everything that's going on of a woman who has this happen to her, unlike victims of so many other crimes, just gets put on display today as in before. It's just all of these things get put on display, and it's and this is how we resolve things. And this is what we consider almost passable, question well, maybe this was okay what happened. It's like, no, how is that remote? It's crazy.
And that was something that I was going to bring up and mention. The way that they portrayed how she was treated is still very much alive now.
Right. For sure.
This is something that I haven't really stated a whole, like, I mean, some people know, some people don't know, but I was sexually assaulted, and it was surprising how I was treated. And I can say with the majority of people believed me and were understanding and helpful. But the part with her best friend, where her best friend turns her back on her, like, that's real.
Yeah.
People who you think are going to be there for you and have your back turn their back on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And ask you, how did you bring this upon yourself? Like, what did you do to make this happen? And it's that part is rough because it hits home.
Right.
And people don't understand what someone's been through. And what sucks really bad is that the burden of proof lies with the victim.
Yeah.
And there's not always proof. There's not always a way to prove it. You can't prove that it didn't happen, but you can't prove that it did either.
Yeah.
So it's like nothing ever happens. But really, I think that the movie did a really good job of demonstrating exactly how that is. And I'm hoping beyond hope that opens eyes somewhere about the struggle that is real. And every single day that people who are abused, sexually assaulted, or raped they have to go through.
Yeah.
Because it's a battle that's silent. And that's why there are a number of, survivors or victims that end up committing suicide, because the pain and the rejection is so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that the movie did a really good job of showing you what's on the line here.
It's definitely an honest and unflinching portrayal of the story, and one that I think we're all in agreement we would hope that people would watch and take in, and then talk about it and bring into the forefront of the world that we live in today, the importance of understanding how truth is played out. So I thank you both for your honest thoughts on the movie. Let's talk ratings. Paul, we'll start with you. Your rating for The Last Duel.
Yeah, this one gets 4 delicious, wonderful, solid tacos from me. It's really good. Yeah, I'm not gonna say some of the negatives. It's just at Damon there. I'm sorry, I had to say it. It's distracting. It was distracting. If you're gonna put Matt Damon in a movie and you want people to go see it because of Matt Damon, you don't give him that haircut. Come on.
That makes sense. Susan?
Yeah.
I want to go last.
Okay. All right. Then for myself, I definitely give it 4 tacos as well. Again, for it's it's a risky story to tell in these times, and I think that every aspect of the storytelling, every aspect of the way in which it was filmed, the acting, and so forth, just really, really resonated with me. And I came out of it feeling like I had been put through an emotional ringer that was important for me to go through. And so I definitely want to give it 4 tacos for that.
Okay. Well, we're gonna do another hat trick because honestly, it was a good portrayal of the events, the 3 perspectives, the how emotional and visceral it felt. I mean, from everybody, from all 3 angles, and the subtle differences that they made. It was a really great. It was a really great movie, and I think that the vindication at the end is kind of like, and I also wanted to kind of say this, take a second to hijack our cast and say, if you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, there is a resource for you. It's called RAIN. I put the number here on the bottom. That is the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. They have counselors on the line to help you through what you're going through and help you if you need help reporting it. This is a valuable resource for anybody who needs that kind of help. Please reach out because it's right. Their number's right there. Yeah.
Awesome. We'll include that information on our social media as well. And Susan, thank you so much for bringing that and sharing that with us today. And of course, for sharing your thoughts as well. We appreciate you very much.
Of course.
All right. We get then to this week's segments. Paul, what the hell have you been watching? I feel like we haven't done this in a while.
And it's been a while. 2 weeks for everything. So what the hell did I do? So sometimes when you're making a movie, you want to make a movie about flesh-eating trolls that live in a pit in the forest, right? And sometimes when you make a movie, you want to make a movie about a demon-possessed teddy bear that tells a precocious and awkward preteen boy horrible things to do. Chucky, that sort of thing. Sometimes when you make a movie, you want to do them both. And that's when you make a movie called The Pit. I found this on YouTube. It's a movie from 1981. It features a preteen boy who it doesn't have a friend in the world, is very isolated, gets picked on and teased, and also is probably the horniest living person on the planet and just lusts over every female that he sees, which is a really weird twist for this movie. And honestly, it's for a weird movie, it's a weird twist in a weird movie. But he ends up falling in love with his babysitter, as you can imagine. And he has this teddy bear that tells that it has this evil satanic voice, which is actually just his voice, but talking like this, like almost Danny from The Shining. Like literally, it's just Danny from The Shining. When he has this, when he has his finger talking to him, it's that. And he finds this pit in the forest behind his house where there are these flesh-eating trolls that live there, and so. Obviously he starts luring people into the pit to feed his flesh-eating troll friends. That's it. That's the movie. Now it's really fucking weird. I like, honestly, like this movie, like you could have just made the flesh-eating trolls movie and it's weird. You could have just made the talking teddy bear and it's weird. And you could have just made a movie about a preteen kid who lusts over every female that he sees, and it would have been weird. And then you group them all together. I not a big, huge spoiler alert here, but like, spoiler alert, obviously his babysitter accidentally falls in the pit and she gets eaten by the flesh-eating trolls, and he feels horrible about it. However, I do want to say this. The ending was fantastic. I almost would tell people just go and suffer through the first whatever hour and 20 minutes for the last 2 minutes of the movie, because it's really good. I don't know how you can have a movie this whacked out and have an ending this fantastic. Normally it's the endings are the worst parts of these dumb horror movies.
Yeah.
The ending in this is fantastic and uber fitting and absolutely appropriate, and I loved it. I loved the ending. It was the perfect ending for a movie. Just every once in a while a movie just nails the ending. This is one of those movies. Nailed the ending 100%.
I'm literally just creeped out by the poster.
Yeah, it's unpleasant. Unpleasant.
How do you find these treasures?
You have to be dedicated to horrible things.
I guess so. All right. Well, you can find out what kind of weirdness Paul's been watching week to week, so make sure you check back because every time I think you've topped yourself, Paul, you come back with something that's like, what?
The Pit. YouTube.
In fact, when you asked the question earlier today before we got together for this on our chat, just what you wrote, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be something." I can already.
It's something. So. This movie is.
Because I think you asked us, had you done it before?
Right.
And I'm like, nope.
Because I knew I saw it literally 3 weeks ago. And but I forgot the reason why I had seen Lamb, and I was like, what did I do that week that I watched it? And I was like, oh, that's right, I did Lamb. And so I was going to save it for the next week, and we didn't have a show last week. Blah, 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 blah. So I just wanted to,
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. Well, Paul, thank you for
this. Is a good one. I just, absolutely, it's Halloween. It's a horror movie. The ending is A+++. Genuinely. I'm not even saying that to be weird and creepy and odd, but genuinely, the nailed the ending.
All righty. I'm almost curious to fast forward to just watch the last 2 minutes, but
I'm not.
Do it.
I'm good.
Do it.
You're good.
I'm good. Thanks.
All right.
Do it.
That's hilarious. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we have had a very, very busy nursing school student. So, Susan, I know we'll get back to your segment here very soon. And best wishes,
Hopefully.
by the way, all your studies.
You.
I hope they're going well.
Yeah, so far so good.
We know you're keeping busy, that's for sure. So, and for myself, this week's real-time rewind is I think I've done it before, and I had chosen this film because I saw it last night because I wanted something just completely different. But I might have already mentioned this. John Travolta as a lawyer in a civil action. I'm not sure if I've mentioned that one before. But if I haven't, or even if I have, it's always worth a rewatch. So A Civil Action is the story of a lawyer, Jan Schlickman, an actual person who wrote a book based on his having pursued a case that he was reluctant to at first. He's a personal injury lawyer, now an environmental lawyer. And it tells the story of his taking on 2 major corporations in defense of a town whose water has been polluted. It's a very compelling story, very well written. Again, early work of people like Tony Shalhoub, and of course John Travolta had been quite the star by then. But it's just, and I can't think of the name of the actor. He was in Fargo. William H. Macy is fantastic in this film. It's just it's a courtroom drama. So Susan, very talky. But yeah, but it's compelling because of the human drama that it involves, and it's just one of my absolute favorite films. So if you've never seen it, check it out. It's called A Civil Action, and if you like courtroom dramas, this one has it. Oh, and goodness gracious, my names are escaping me. Robert Duvall, also a fantastic acting experience from him as he plays the lawyer for one of the main corporations who just basically schools Jan Schlickman. in court and saves his company. So anyway, so Civil Action, check it out if you haven't already. Week to week, I'll remind you of films that are out there that you may or may not have seen and encourage you to watch them. Guys, it's been another great episode. I know we've still got films that are coming out in the next few weeks. This week, I believe we're going to see, or on our list is Last Night in Soho. But
French Dispatch is also. We'll figure it out.
I was going to ask you. It's coming out. I believe you had said it was delayed to your area. Is that
my
correct?
area, yeah.
Yeah, and frankly, I think to mine as well. So. But whatever the case might be, there's some exciting stuff coming up because a couple of weeks we got Eternals.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about that. So
yeah, big time.
All right. Well, Paul, Susan, thank you so much for all the work that you do for the show. Thank you all for joining us here on YouTube. Don't forget, click that subscribe button as well as that notification bell so you know when our episodes land because they do archive week to week, or you can join us live here on Tuesday nights. Outside of that, we just like to remind you that you are awesome. You are amazing, and the world is a better place because you are in it. We will see you next